what we have is we have been able to build our analytics, use our domain knowledge to be able to re-look at the data that exists and point to actions that can be taken to improve efficiency, improve reliability, and really make the plant more efficient and more profitable. So it's leveraging the data which exists currently today and being able to deliver what we call outcomes. So better output, better efficiency, better reliability.
So just for like coal plants of 500 megawatt, we did an analysis, the 1% improvement in heat rate, that's almost equal to 3 crores of savings. So if you multiply that with the 4%, up to 4% improvement in heat rate, on top of that, if you talk about improvement in reliability, it starts becoming a very material way of saving. And we're seeing this in the matured, developed markets where early adopters have really started to look at how does digital technologies disrupt, the market from their own efficiency perspective. And I kind of look at it, if you see what happened in the telco world, right? A lot of people who didn't have landlines skipped a generation and moved into cellular phone. I see the same thing applied in the power sector, in the electricity value chain, in the Indian market. There are challenges from connectivity, there are challenges from getting data to go into the cloud environment, but there's a lot of value from not having to go through the same last 10 years of technology, instant leapfrog into a world where you're using analytics and cloud-based technologies in a more modern way, and you'll get a lot more value out of the benefit out of the outcomes that Dick just mentioned. I would say it's imperative that a market like India adopts it. I mean, a lot of what policy changes have come into place last year, including the emission regulation, including the penetration of solar and renewable framework, is going to change the way utility and power companies had to operate in the past. And what currently Indian producers of power are not very efficient. I think the market players would agree that there's a lot of opportunity to improve. I think what you will notice is that survival of the fittest. If you can't operate plant most efficiently at an regulatory compliant emission level, you won't necessarily be available to operate anymore. So in that, while if the 7% GDP growth rate continues to occur year over year, there's going to be tremendous need for new capacity, mostly from a central generation. So if you take all those together, we feel digital can help a lot with get some of the low-hanging fruits out of the way.
And I would say at the same time, so there's a significant amount of investment in the renewable space that we see on the horizon here in India, which puts a huge amount of strain on the infrastructure that exists today and also requires a more dynamic system. The only way to really effectively manage that is utilizing digital capability, digitization from fuel source all the way down to how the consumer is utilizing the energy. So digitization plays a part of that, and what GE brings to that is Predix as the platform, which is really the enabler of the ecosystem. So we have our own applications which help generators, whether it's fossil fuel, whether it's renewables, and then also in the transmission and distribution, and then also in the consumption in the area of microgrids. So GE has capability in each one of those arenas. And so you take the challenge that India has, how do you continue to grow, how do you get more efficient, you have to lean into the digital era. So, we take a look at what we call the electricity value chain, all the way from primary fuel down to the consumer. And as I said, Predix as the platform is the foundational layer on which you can deliver analytics, which start to point to actions that you can take in order to drive improvement. It starts to look where losses are occurring, where efficiency can be gained, and what are the actions that you can take. So I believe that there's opportunity in all of them. I spend time talking to generators. They have opportunity to improve output, to improve efficiency. So our solutions right now have been proven out to deliver at least 1% of heat rate efficiency, to be able to deliver improvement of emissions, so 20 to 30% NOx reduction, and then also improving reliability. Then you look at the transmission and distribution, so able to pinpoint losses, to able to reduce the amount of expenditure, operating expense that you require to maintain and manage the network. And then the disruption that's taking place at the microgrid at the consumption level, we have a new business focused on that as well. So we believe that we have an opportunity to work with government, with the utilities, with the startup community, with developers, and create a facilitating ecosystem to assist India on its journey to a more efficient system.
How we can bring in villages distributed power with grid and Predict's platform. That is quite transformative. Nowhere in the world have we done something like that. So that's an example of what I'll call green shoots, early stages. We're also talking to NTPC and other government entities to see how we can bring some of the disruptive digital technologies to the market. But I would say it's, everything Dick mentioned, it's not one player that's going to make an impact. IPPs, captive power plant, industries like aluminum that require and depend on a lot of power, they are going to look at these technologies and see how that can reduce their cost basis to compete globally in the world. And I think it's really important to consider this, not just how it can help the economy within India. One of the great things that India has is that it's a digital native country. If you think about IT services, if you think about BPO, if you think about Wipro, Infosys, all of these companies, if we can bring that talent to serve what we consider as a $90 billion opportunity for the industrial internet, then the market is not just how we can transform and bring productivity in the context of the economy in India, but also how do we create jobs to look at this as a global opportunity. I mean, from an Indian market, it's early days, so I would say it's anybody's guess where this number is going to go from here. Given the kind of gigawatt capacity that's already installed, and given the efficiency benchmark that we see here, 1/3 of the gigawatt capacity from a central generation is 30% or roundabout. That's pretty low. So we do see more than the opportunity. If you see the opportunity of savings, cost reduction, 3 crores per 500 megawatt coal, multiply that with the total opportunity of megawatts already installed, gigawatts already installed. I think it's really from that paradigm you should look at it. As part of the $90 billion market value that is out there to be captured, a significant part of that is going to be in the developed economies. But again, if the ecosystem plays into it, there could be partners such as the companies that I mentioned who can join hands with us on the Predict's platform and go after the economy beyond India.
So it's really around the efficiency of the generation to improve not only the where and how the wind farm or the renewable capability is actually positioned, but also how it fits into the grid. So how do you make sure that the rest of the network is flexible, that can actually be able to offtake all of this must-run capability? So we've been working in many countries across Europe and also in parts of the US in order to work with the utilities, work with the grid operators through the digital capability, providing flexibility to specific generation types to be able to offset and also to be able to address some of these ancillary services. So this is not something that GE solves on its own. It's an opportunity to work with the utilities, with the regulators, in order to address it so that it doesn't become a problem.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look at global or averages and compare that benchmark it to India, the inefficiencies or efficiency in the grid, there's a lot of opportunity to improve that. So I think regulatory environment changes are critical to help bring in some of that paradigm. But again, if globally you're talking about 8% losses, compare that to India, which is more than 20% losses, how can you use digital technologies and other technologies to bridge that gap? I don't think you need to wait only for regulation to bring in to help. I think we need a lot of the market players to take advantage of already proven technologies, right? I think one of the key enabler of this digital transformation is what's already happening in the consumer technologies. Our smartphones have become a lot more efficient. The bandwidth that's coming into play, we can take advantage of those issues, which would have been otherwise a barrier for bringing in these cloud-based Internet of Things technologies. But now we can leapfrog that and bring those types of efficiencies to the Indian market.
And what we're seeing is, the ability to leverage technology is also being taken by some of the premier utilities across the globe. So one of our initial partners, for example, was Exelon. So working with them in North America, already a world-class operator utility, making themselves better, leveraging Predix as the platform, leveraging our applications that we're working, and also co-innovating, developing their own applications on the platform. So this is not a unique thing for GE. They're also leveraging the technology, using their own intellectual property, and actually making themselves better. So this is a different type of product, a different type of capability which GE is working. So if you think of that context in India, there is a lot of opportunity to improve efficiency, where we want to position Predix as the industrial platform for the energy sector.
I mean, look, from my perspective, it's the first innings of a 5-day test match. So early adopters and usually the more progressive utilities would look at this and say, this is a game changer. And it is truly. You're not trying out new technologies in the sense that this has already been proven technology in other markets. So some of it will require some policy nudge, but I really think the market making, and look at it from another perspective, it's not like we've been in this play from a GE perspective beyond 3 to 5 years. This is one of the fastest growing segment globally. And just like you've seen in some of the other technology paradigms, we're very confident, which is why we're investing heavily in the Indian market, that there's demand. It's going to start with the private producers, but the large regulated part of the market will also see advantages in looking at the investment in this type of technology. And in fact, the payback period from the digital technology is much better than you would if you were to invest in hardware and new, captive technologies.
And we see adoption across the globe. So whether it's in China, it's in Southeast Asia, it's in North America, Europe, Latin America, adoption of this technology, of the platform, and also development and consumption of our applications, but also development of new applications. So India should be no different in leaning into this type of technology, embracing it, and also creating that newer ecosystem of startups, of new business models. I don't think we understand and we can appreciate what the end game looks like, but this is really the journey which we can facilitate.
So globally, we have invested over $1 billion since the inception of industrial internet. In fact, this year we are announcing, just like we started our investment in Silicon Valley with our headquarter of digital, we're announcing foundries globally. And one of the foundries under discussion is going to be in Bangalore to take advantage of the skill set and the ecosystem of our partners that already exist. And that, to Dick's point, is going to be quite transformative, again, not just for the Indian economy, but how we can take advantage of that skill set to address the global demand for this talent pool that's coming in. So in investment terms, we don't have a number to give you, but we expect, if you look at from 2009 to 2015, the kind of investment we made, to get started, we will triple that investment going forward. And India being one of the fastest growing markets globally with plus 7% GDP growth rates, not just India for India, but India for rest of the world, is going to be a very significant investment. So yeah, we already have a large presence in R&D from a material science and data science perspective in our Jackville Center in Bangalore. So we'll continue to expand our capabilities there with data scientists, developers, analytics, experts we've brought in. So we're hiring quite a bit in that space in Bangalore currently. But again, like I said, part of it is this is not something you can draw a predictable line. If we expect the way this is going to grow, the projections probably will be lower than we're currently growing 70% year over year in terms of our top line growth rates from our digital technologies. If you multiply that, given India market demand, we expect to see a lot more. So yeah, this year, since we have launched Predix to become generally available, we currently have all of the major IT services company who happen to be suppliers to GE also. So we're talking about TCS, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, Genpact. All of them have become partners of Predix, which means they would have developers who will be trained on this platform to develop application for their customers, as well as developing applications that they can sell directly to the market without having GE as part of the ecosystem.